You think you're making your own choices. You think you're in control. You wake up, go to work, check your phone, make your list, handle your day. It all feels normal. But what if I told you, most of what's driving you, your pace, your patterns, your personality, isn't really you, it's the fog, and you've been living in it for so long, you stop noticing it's there. The ceiling. You can't point to everyone talks about breaking through limits, but you can't break what you don't see. And most of your biggest limitations, they don't show up as walls. They show up as endless hesitation, chronic overthinking. That's just the way I am. Now's not the right time. Constant low-grade burnout. Or the most dangerous, a life that feels fine. Not bad, not broken, just flat. Like you're always almost fully alive, but never quite. Invisible doesn't mean imaginary. This fog isn't imagined, it's real. It's the product of what you were praised for as a child, what you were punished for, what culture told you success looks like, what trauma taught you to avoid, what school taught you to memorize, what family taught you not to want. Layer by layer, year by year, the fog formed. Not with bad intentions, just default settings. And now, you mistake it for your personality. You say, I'm just not the kind of person who, that's just not me. But is that true, or is that conditioning speaking through your voice? What does the fog sound like? The invisible ceiling doesn't yell. It whispers, constantly. Be realistic. That idea's been done. Who are you to try that? Don't make a scene. You should be grateful. These aren't just thoughts, they're rules, buried in your nervous system. And the scariest part? You follow them like they're law. You're not broken, you're bound. If you've ever looked at your life and thought, I should be further along by now, you're not lazy, you're not undisciplined, you're not behind. You're bound by an operating system that was installed before you knew how to say no. And now, you're trying to build a limitless life on limited settings. Of course it's not working. Of course you feel stuck. You're not broken, but you're fogged. The fog feels safe. Here's the twisted part. The fog doesn't feel threatening. It feels comfortable. That's why it's so effective. It rewards you for staying inside it. People like you when you stay small. You don't risk embarrassment. You avoid rejection. You feel in control. But at what cost? You weren't built for safety. You were built for expansion. So, how do you start breaking through? You don't need a life overhaul. You just need to start seeing the fog. Because awareness changes everything. Try this. Start noticing the scripts you're running. Ask yourself, whose rule is this? Track the moments you shrink yourself. Then question why. Watch where you always say should and never say want. Pay attention to the life you're tolerating instead of choosing. The fog can't survive direct light. Your job isn't to fix it overnight. It's to start noticing where it lives. Final thought. The fog is lighter than you think. It's heavy because you've carried it for so long. But once you start naming it, something shifts. You'll feel it in tiny moments. When you speak up without rehearsing, when you say no without guilt, when you choose your desire over someone else's expectation, when you stop apologizing for taking up space. And in those moments, brief but brilliant, you're not in the fog anymore. You're in your life. Let's get honest. Most of what you believe about yourself, your potential, your worth, your limits, wasn't chosen. It was inherited. Not genetically, but psychologically, emotionally, culturally, downloaded into your system before you had the tools to question it. And now, you're living by rules you didn't write, in a life you didn't fully design. The belief system. You didn't know. You had think of your beliefs like a script running in the background. You don't see it, you don't touch it, but it powers everything. Some examples. I have to earn rest. Success only counts if it looks hard. People like me don't get opportunities like that. If I don't handle it, everything will fall apart. Love means sacrifice. It's safer not to want too much. Sound familiar? You didn't wake up one day and decide to believe those things. They were handed to you by parents, teachers, friends, media, religion, trauma. You absorbed them the way a sponge absorbs water, automatically, unconsciously. Your past became your programming. When you were a kid, survival depended on fitting in. You learned quickly. What made people clap? What made them withdraw? What got you approval? What brought shame? And in response, you built belief systems that kept you safe, emotionally or physically. But here's the problem. What protected you then may be limiting you now. That belief you had to overachieve to be loved, now it fuels your burnout. That belief you had to stay quiet to avoid conflict, now it keeps you invisible. That belief you had to be the strong one, now it's crushing you in silence. These beliefs wear costumes. They don't announce themselves like, "Hi, I'm a limiting belief." They disguise themselves as common sense, just how life works, being realistic. That's just who I am. But when you never challenge them, you let your past write your future. Here's the gut check question. Whose voice is actually in your head? Seriously, ask it often. When you hear that voice say, "Don't try that," that's too risky. You're not qualified. You'll mess it up. Ask, is that my wisdom? Or is that my mom's fear, my dad's anxiety, a teacher's sarcasm I internalized as truth, a childhood wound masquerading as logic? If it's not your voice, you don't have to keep listening. Rewriting isn't rebellion, it's responsibility. A lot of people hesitate to question inherited beliefs. They feel like it's disrespectful, like changing your beliefs means betraying your roots. But listen, you can love where you came from and still outgrow it. You can honor your family without copying their fears. You can be grateful for your past while building something different. This isn't rebellion, it's ownership, it's adulthood, it's leadership, starting with leading yourself. How to start? Uninstalling. Old beliefs. You can't change what you don't confront. So here's a framework to begin. Identify it. What belief is driving this decision or emotion? Trace it. Where did I learn that? From who? Under what circumstances? Question it. Is this belief always true? Who would I be without it? Replace it. What belief would serve me better now? Then test the new belief in small ways. In your calendar, your conversations, your choices. That's not woo. That's mental reprogramming. Final thought. You're allowed to choose again. Just because a belief got you here doesn't mean it gets to take you further. You can thank it, release it, and replace it. You are not your inherited limits. You are the chooser of what comes next. It's time to stop running code you didn't write and start building a system you actually believe in. Not all ceilings are built of brick. Some are made of rules no one ever said out loud. But you followed them anyway, every single day. They're not written in stone. They're written in your body, your behaviors, your choices. These are the silent scripts. What are silent scripts? They're the unspoken expectations you learned growing up. No one sat you down and said them, but you heard them loud and clear. Don't rock the boat. Keep everyone happy. Work hard, don't complain. Don't talk about money. Put others first, always. Stay small. It's safer. They sound harmless, even virtuous. But over time, they shrink you. You don't follow them consciously. You enact them automatically. You were trained by tone, by what was praised, by what got silence, by the tension in the room when someone stepped too far. And so, your nervous system learned, keep it smooth, keep it quiet, keep it likable, keep it predictable. And if you're honest, you've been keeping yourself smaller ever since. These scripts live in the micro moments. They don't show up only in big decisions. They show up in the thousands of tiny ones you barely notice. You don't share the idea because it might be too much. You say yes even when you're drained. You apologize for having a need. You over-explain even when you're right. You wait for permission to go after what's yours. You downplay your wins. You let the email sit in drafts because, what if they think you're arrogant? These aren't random, they're programmed. Scripts you didn't write, but keep running anyway. What happens when you obey too long? Silent scripts can make you successful, but resentful liked, but unknown reliable, but replaceable comfortable, but invisible. You end up being the person everyone depends on, except you. You become an expert at keeping peace, but you're exhausted by the war inside. How to spot your scripts. Start here. Where are you always playing small, even when no one asked you to? Ask yourself, What do I do automatically in high-stakes situations? What am I afraid people would think if I stop doing this? What part of me gets triggered when I don't follow the rule? Whose approval am I unconsciously chasing? These questions shine light on what's been hiding in plain sight. Rewrite it line by line. You don't just break silent scripts, you rewrite them consciously. Try this. Old script. Don't speak up, you'll upset people. New script. I can be honest and kind. My truth has value. Old script. You have to earn rest. New script. Rest isn't a reward, it's a right. Old script. Keep it all together. Don't show weakness. New script. Vulnerability creates connection. I'm allowed to be seen. Speak these out loud, write them down, live them, one action at a time. Remember, breaking the script. Feels like breaking the rules, and that's okay. Your nervous system will register it as wrong, not because it is, but because it's unfamiliar. But every time you make a different choice, you send a message to your body. We're allowed to grow now. We're allowed to want more. We don't need to obey ghosts. And suddenly, you stop performing. You start living. Final thought, your life is not a stage play. You don't have to stick to the lines. You don't owe anyone a performance. You get to improvise. You get to surprise people. You get to disappoint those who only love the scripted version of you. Because the real you, the one that's been edited out of your own story, it's time for them to take the lead. I'm just a people pleaser. I don't like conflict. I'm hyper-independent. I do better alone. I always keep it together. I don't ask for help. That's just who I am. Sound familiar? They sound like traits. But what if they're not? What if they're actually coping strategies, refined, repeated, reinforced, until they started passing for your personality? When survival becomes identity, at some point you faced pain, rejection, chaos, abandonment, emotional whiplash, and your system adapted. You learned to anticipate others' needs. You stayed quiet to avoid explosions. You overachieved to feel worthy. You became the responsible one because no one else was. You detached so no one could hurt you. None of that makes you weak. It makes you brilliant. For surviving. But here's the problem. What once protected you now limits you. The mask that kept you safe is now a ceiling over your potential. Trauma isn't always loud. It doesn't have to be a catastrophic event. Sometimes trauma is what didn't happen. The hug you needed but never got. The apology that never came. The chaos that made safety feel like a luxury. The praise that was always out of reach. And so, you built a life of functioning. You became dependable, capable, high-performing. But behind that, a constant low hum of anxiety, a fear of being too much, a fear of being a burden, a fear of being really seen. That's just how I am? Is it? No judgment, just a loving challenge. Next time you say, I'm just independent. I don't do emotions. I'm not great at relationships. I always have to be in control. Pause. Ask yourself, did I choose this? Or was this a pattern I built to survive something hard? Because the moment you realize you built it, you also realize you can rebuild. The trap of overfunctioning. So many people who appear strong, especially in careers and relationships, are actually stuck in overfunctioning mode. They carry the emotional weight for everyone. They fix everything before it breaks. They stay 3 steps ahead just in case. They never let anyone really take care of them. Why? Because they learned early. If I don't handle it, no one will. That's not strength. That's trauma on autopilot. Your greatest strength might be your oldest wound in disguise. Think about it. Your hyper-independence might come from being let down too often. Your chill personality might be emotional suppression. Your ambition might be a fear of not being enough. Your perfectionism might be a way to avoid criticism. Your loyalty might be a fear of abandonment in disguise. None of these are bad, but they are worth investigating, because awareness is the first key to freedom. Healing isn't about fixing you. You're not broken. You're just operating with patterns that made perfect sense back then. But now, you're ready for more authenticity, more ease, more wholeness, more you. Healing doesn't erase what happened. It just stops it from running the show. So, how do you reclaim yourself? Notice what you always do, especially under stress. Ask, is this who I really am or who I had to become? Honor the strategy. It saved you. Decide, does it still serve me? Practice new behaviors, slowly, safely, consistently. That's the rewiring. That's where the real you begins to surface. Final thought. Your true self isn't lost, just buried. Underneath the pleasing, performing, over-functioning, isolating, is someone else, softer, braver, clearer, still whole. You've never lost them. You've just been busy surviving. Now, you're safe enough to come home. Here's a hard truth. Comfort is addictive, but more than that, it's deceptive, because it feels like success. It feels like peace. It feels like arriving. But in reality, comfort is often a beautifully decorated cage. You're not stuck because you're lost. You're stuck because you've settled. When good is the enemy of great, you've got a decent job, a life that looks fine from the outside. No major drama, no immediate crisis. And that's exactly the problem. Nothing is wrong enough to demand change, but nothing is right enough to feel fully alive. Welcome to the comfort cage, where dreams go to slowly fade, the illusion of safety. Comfort whispers, don't risk it, you've got it good. People would kill for your life, don't be ungrateful. This is the best it's going to get, stay here. So, you stay. In the job that doesn't challenge you, in the relationship that doesn't excite you, in the town you've outgrown, with habits that no longer serve you, in a version of yourself that stopped evolving years ago. Not because you're lazy, but because you confused comfort with safety. Safety isn't always the goal. Sometimes it's the ceiling. There's a difference between being stable and being stagnant. Safety is only freedom when it's a foundation. But when it becomes the destination, it becomes a prison in disguise. You weren't made for numb stability. You were made for aliveness, even if it's messy, even if it's scary. Because here's the secret. Growth never happens inside your comfort zone. Not once. Not ever. The cost of staying. Too comfortable. Every time you choose ease over evolution, you pay a price. You lose energy. You lose creativity. You lose clarity. You lose connection to yourself and your edge. You lose time. And worst of all, you wake up one day with a life you don't recognize. A version of you that settled for, almost. How to know. You're in the cage. It's subtle, but here are the signs. You're rarely challenged and secretly bored. You daydream about something more, but take no action. You use busyness to avoid deeper questions. You procrastinate on change by over-planning it. You celebrate staying the same, not stretching. You've started confusing comfort with identity. If any of that hits, you're in the cage. But here's the good news. You have the key. The cure. Choose discomfort. On purpose. Discomfort isn't a sign you're doing something wrong. It's a sign you're doing something new. Start training for it. Have the awkward conversation. Apply for the thing you feel underqualified for. Wake up earlier than your excuses. Create before you're ready. Try, fail, adjust in public. Your nervous system might scream. Your ego might resist. But your soul, it'll start breathing again. Final thought, comfort is not the villain, but it's not. Your purpose. Comfort is beautiful, but it was never meant to be your ceiling. It's a place to recover, not a place to retire. You didn't come this far just to plateau. You came here to keep evolving, so shake the dust off, stretch your edges, walk out of the cage, even if your hands are shaking, because the version of you that's waiting, they don't live in safety. They live in freedom, and freedom always starts with a little fear. Here's something most people never say out loud. We're all waiting. Waiting for a sign, waiting for the right time, waiting for validation, waiting for someone to say, yes, you're allowed. You're ready now. You have what it takes. But here's the truth that will set you free. That permission, it's not coming. Not from your boss, not from your parents, not from your partner, not even from the universe. Because it was never theirs to give. It was yours all along. You've been conditioned to wait. Growing up, approval was everything. You got rewarded when you followed the rules, punished when you strayed outside the lines. You learned, don't be too loud, don't stand out too much. Don't go first unless you're sure you'll win. Don't make people uncomfortable, especially not with your ambition. So, you learn to hesitate, to dim, to ask before acting. And now, you're still waiting for someone to say, go. But the world doesn't work like that. Here's what no one tells you. The people who are doing big things, most of them weren't more talented. They just started without permission. They chose themselves. They acted before they were qualified. They declared their own readiness and caught up later. The world didn't crown them. They crowned themselves. You don't need to be chosen. You need to choose. Let that sink in. You don't need credentials to begin. You don't need applause to create. You don't need an audience to speak. You don't need a guarantee to take the first step. You need decision. You need courage. You need ownership. Because the life you want isn't behind a locked door. It's behind your own hesitation. Signs, you're still waiting for permission. Let's be real. It shows up like this. You over-research instead of starting. You need just one more course, book, podcast. You ask everyone else's opinion before trusting your own. You tone yourself down so you don't intimidate anyone. You fear success because it might make others uncomfortable. If that hits home, you're not alone. But you are in a holding pattern. And the only exit is permission from within. You are allowed to want more, change your mind. Redefine success. Set boundaries. Be bold, take up space, be fully, unapologetically you. You don't need a crown. You don't need approval. You need a moment of truth, and this might be it. Final thought, give yourself the damn green light. No one's coming to hand you a golden invitation, because the moment you need permission, you've already forgotten who you are. You are the author, the gatekeeper, the ignition switch. And if you're still looking around the room, waiting for someone to nod first, look in the mirror. That's the only approval you ever needed. Let's get brutally honest. You're not afraid of failure. You're afraid of rejection, of putting yourself out there and hearing, no, not good enough. Who do you think you are? That sting, you felt it once. And now, you avoid it at all costs. You don't call it fear. You call it being strategic. You call it waiting for the right time. You call it being realistic. But really, you're building your life around avoiding rejection. And it's costing you everything. How rejection conditioning works. It starts early. You raise your hand, laughter. You speak your truth. Silence. You go for something big. Disappointment. Your nervous system records it as danger. And like any smart system, it adapts. You learn to not ask, to not try, to only act when it's safe, guaranteed, or applauded, to shrink ahead of time to avoid being shut down. It's not weakness, it's survival, but it becomes your ceiling, a life built around avoiding no. You don't realize it, but rejection is running the show. When you don't apply unless you're overqualified, you don't reach out unless you're sure they'll say yes. You don't promote your work unless it's perfect. You don't express your real needs in a relationship. You don't charge what you're worth. You don't ask for help, ever. The result? A life of almost. Almost starting the business, almost leaving the toxic job, almost telling them how you feel, almost becoming the version of you that lives fully. What you miss when you avoid rejection. Avoiding no also means avoiding growth, clarity, confidence, feedback, unexpected wins, self-respect, actual freedom. Because here's the paradox. Every no brings you closer to the right, yes, but only if you're willing to hear it. You've been trained to take rejection. Personally, that no felt like you're not enough. You're embarrassing. You shouldn't have tried. But what if that's not true? What if no just means not now, not them, not this way, not ready, but almost the most successful people you admire? They've heard 1,000 more no's than you. The difference? They didn't stop there. Rejection isn't the problem. It's the meaning. You attach to it. You've made no mean something about you, instead of what it actually is, information. That pitch that didn't land, lesson, that person who ghosted you, Redirection, that gate that didn't open. Recalibration. The sooner you get rejected, the faster you adapt. And the faster you adapt, the closer you get to alignment. Reframe it. What if no is a gift? It clarifies your audience, it sharpens your message, it strengthens your resilience, it builds your courage, it speeds up your sorting process. Most people avoid no and end up avoiding life. The bold ones, they chase it. They understand. The goal isn't to avoid rejection, it's to survive it. And then go again, sharper and stronger. Final thought. Don't let no be the end of the sentence. Too many people let rejection write their ending, but you, let it be a comma, not a period, a redirection, not a dead end. You don't need fewer no's. You need more of them, faster, louder, cleaner, because behind 100 no's is the one yes that changes everything. But you'll never get there if you keep hiding from no. There's a certain kind of person the world applauds. Always busy, always grinding, always achieving, always crossing things off. You know the type. Maybe you are the type. And at first glance, it looks impressive. But take a closer look. Ask one uncomfortable question. What are you actually avoiding by staying this busy? Because for many high-functioning people, productivity isn't progress. It's protection, the hidden fear. Behind the hustle. Being busy feels safe. It gives you a sense of control. It earns you praise. It keeps you distracted. And most dangerously, it keeps you from feeling. Because if you slow down, even for a second, you might have to face what's underneath. Fear of not being enough. Grief you never processed, dreams you buried, decisions you're avoiding, a relationship that's quietly breaking a path that no longer fits. So instead, you stay in motion, because motion feels like momentum, even when it's going in circles. Busyness as emotional armor. You wear your to-do list like a badge of honor, but sometimes it's actually armor, because being in demand gives you a reason to say no, a shield from vulnerability, an excuse to not get too close, a way to avoid your own reflection. It sounds like, I wish I could, but I'm swamped. One day I'll slow down, just not yet. I'll get to that after this season. I'm just too busy to think about it right now. But let's be real, there's always another season. You're not lazy, you're just avoiding what matters. You get things done. You answer emails, you check all the boxes. But the things that scare you, that really matter, they stay untouched. The book you want to write, the hard conversation you keep postponing, the business you've dreamed of starting, the part of you that's been asking to be seen. You tell yourself, I'm being productive, but productivity without purpose is just avoidance wearing a time tracker. The lie of constant hustle. We've been sold this myth. If you're not grinding, you're falling behind. But grinding at the wrong thing just digs the hole deeper. True growth doesn't always look like motion. Sometimes it looks like staring into space and hearing your own thoughts, sitting with discomfort instead of outrunning it. Resting deeply so you can create clearly. Saying no even when you could handle it. Slowness isn't laziness, it's deliberate living. How to know when productivity has become avoidance. Ask yourself, am I doing this because it matters or because it's urgent? What am I avoiding by doing this task instead of the scary one? If I stopped working right now, what emotion might rise up? Is my calendar full because I'm focused or because I'm hiding? Honest answers might be the first real breakthrough you've had in years. You don't need to do more. You need to do what matters. Imagine this. You stop treating your worth like a math equation, tasks completed, GAF, value. You start treating your time like a sacred resource. You move with clarity, not just urgency. With focus, not just frenzy. With meaning, not just motion. That's not lazy, that's liberation. Final thought. Busyness won't save you. It won't protect you from pain. It won't guarantee success. It won't build a meaningful life. You don't need to hustle your way into worthiness. You're allowed to slow down. You're allowed to feel. You're allowed to do less and matter more. Because at the end of your life, no one's going to ask how many unread emails you cleared. They'll ask, did you really live? Here's the paradox. Sometimes the thing holding you back is the very thing that once moved you forward. That award, that title, that dream job, that public win, that version of you everyone applauded. You built it with sweat and ambition. You wore it with pride. But now, it's become a shadow, a ceiling disguised as a crown, the trap of identity success. You were the talented one, the overachiever, the straight-A student, the one who made it out, the one who figured it out early. But the reward of becoming someone is the pressure to always be that someone. Now you feel trapped by your own image. You can't pivot. People expect consistency. You can't slow down. Success became your self-worth. You can't try something new. It might not look as impressive. You can't admit you've outgrown it because they'd never understand. And so, you stay in the job that looks good on paper, in the career path that makes your parents proud, in the life you should be grateful for, all while something inside whispers, this isn't it anymore. The fear of letting go. You don't want to disappoint. You don't want to look like you're failing. You don't want to start over. So you tell yourself, I should just be grateful. It's too late to switch. Maybe I'm just burned out. It'll get better after the next promotion. But here's the truth. It's not burnout. It's misalignment. And no amount of success can compensate for a life that no longer fits. Success isn't a finish line. It's a snapshot. That past version of you, they did their job. They got you here. But they aren't meant to run the next chapter. Yet so many people keep making decisions based on who they used to be. The 24-year-old who picked the major, the 27-year-old who landed the title, the 30-year-old who said yes when they meant I'm not sure. And now, you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, still protecting a story that's no longer true. How to know you're trapped by past success. You feel bored, but guilty about it. You downplay your new interests. You stay in roles you've outgrown. You fear being seen as inconsistent. You hesitate to follow your curiosity. You keep doing what you're good at, even if it drains you. The longer you stay, the heavier the crown gets, until it becomes a burden. Give yourself permission to evolve. Evolution isn't betrayal. It's the highest form of self-honoring. You don't owe your old self eternal loyalty. You owe your present self the chance to breathe. Let this be the reframe. Letting go of past success doesn't erase it. It integrates it into a new direction. It builds on it, instead of being buried beneath it. You don't need to burn it all down. You just need to ask, who am I now? And what wants to grow from here? Final thought, don't let old winds become new walls. Success is powerful, but your potential is greater than your past. Don't get stuck protecting a highlight reel. Don't spend the next decade preserving the last one. Let your growth be louder than your ego. Let your evolution be messier than your plan. Because the version of you that's calling right now, they don't live in old accolades, they live in what's next. Most people think their problem is motivation. I just need to be more disciplined. I need to stop procrastinating. I have to push harder. But what if that's not the real issue? What if your tank isn't empty because you're lazy, but because it's leaking? Not all exhaustion comes from work. Some of it comes from everything you're tolerating. Energy is your real currency. Forget time, forget money. Your energy is your most valuable asset, because when energy is high, creativity flows, confidence rises, decision-making sharpens, action feels effortless. But when energy is low, you question everything. You second-guess every move. You feel overwhelmed by small tasks. You procrastinate not because you're lazy, but because you're leaking. What are energy leaks? They're the unseen forces draining your power, the low-level hum of ugh in your day, the things you put up with that slowly erode your drive. They include people who constantly need emotional labor, habits that rob clarity, late-night scrolling, sugar spikes, over-caffeination, mental loops, indecision, worry, resentment, half-finished projects that weigh you down, saying yes when you mean no, environments that overstimulate or undernourish. None of them are huge, but together, they become a siphon. Energy vampires. Wear many outfits. Not all of them are toxic on purpose. Some are kind, familiar, well-meaning, but that doesn't mean they're neutral. Ask yourself, do I feel energized or drained after spending time with this person? Is this connection mutual or mostly me giving? Am I walking on eggshells or shrinking to keep the peace? If you always have to perform to be accepted, you're paying with your energy. Every single time, internal leaks are just as dangerous. It's not just people, it's your own mind, overthinking decisions you've already made, replaying old arguments, holding grudges like unpaid emotional rent, pretending you don't care when you deeply do, setting goals that aren't even yours to begin with. These loops feel productive, but they're silent saboteurs. They rob you of presence, and presence is where power lives. The fix: plug the leaks before you push harder. You don't need another productivity hack. You need an energy audit. Ask yourself, what in my life feels heavier than it should? What drains me, even if it shouldn't? What have I been tolerating because it's easier than addressing it? Where am I leaking energy in the name of being nice, polite, or responsible? Then, one by one, seal the leaks. Set the boundary. Unfollow the drain. Delete the obligation. Close the loop, finish or release the thing that's lingering. Every leak you close returns power to you. Final thought: protecting your energy is productivity. You don't need to hustle more. You need to leak less. The clearer your field, the louder your clarity. The cleaner your space, the sharper your moves, the lighter your load, the faster your growth. So stop trying to fuel your dreams with fumes. Seal the leaks and watch your power come roaring back. There's a voice in your head, and it's not just commentary, it's a narrator. It interprets everything. That awkward silence: you said something stupid. That opportunity: you're not ready. That compliment: they're just being nice. That idea: someone else could do it better. You don't even question it anymore because the voice sounds so familiar, so practiced, so convincing. But here's what you need to hear. That voice isn't your truth, it's your training. Where the inner critic is born. You weren't born self-critical. You learned to be. From a teacher who embarrassed you in front of class. From a parent who praised achievement more than effort. From a friend group that weaponized your vulnerability. From a culture that sold you perfection as worth. So you developed a strategy. If I judge myself first, no one else can hurt me. At first, it protected you. Now, it's punishing you. The inner critic isn't a monster, it's a malfunction. Here's the wild part. Your inner critic is trying to help. Its job is to keep you safe, accepted, in control, out of humiliation, protected from failure. But the method: brutal. It yells instead of whispers. It criticizes instead of coaches. It shrinks you to protect you. In short, it's using fear to try to keep you from pain. But now, the fear is the pain. How to spot the inner critic in action. It rarely says, you can't. It says, not yet. You're not ready. What will people think? Don't make a fool of yourself. You always mess this up. Stay small. It's safer. It's not always loud. Sometimes it sounds like logic. Sometimes it wears the mask of being realistic. And that's what makes it so dangerous. The real damage: you start believing it. After a while, you stop challenging the voice. You start living by its rules. You set smaller goals. Avoid visibility. Undercharge. Stay silent. Apologize for taking up space. Talk yourself out of your own brilliance, not because you're unqualified, not because you're incapable, but because a voice inside told you not to dare. Rewriting the script. You don't have to kill the inner critic. You have to upgrade it. Step 1. Name the voice. Give it a personality, a face. Detach it from your identity. Step 2. Notice the patterns. When does it show up? Right before action? During rest? After boldness? Step 3. Interrupt the loop. Pause. Breathe. Ask, is this voice helping me grow or keeping me small? Step 4. Replace the language, not with fake positivity, but with grounded truth. Instead of, I'm not ready, try, I'm learning in real time. That's enough to start. Instead of, who am I to do this? Try, why not me? Final thought: you are not the voice in your head. You are the one who hears it. And you get to decide what's true. The inner critic isn't evil. It's outdated. It's your 9-year-old self trying to run a 35-year-old life. It's your trauma dressed as logic. It's fear disguised as strategy. But here's the new truth. You are safe enough now to dream bigger, to act louder, to live freer. And that voice, it'll quiet down once you start proving it wrong. You're not stuck because you're not capable. You're stuck because you're still operating from a version of you that doesn't fit anymore. That's the thing no one tells you. Growth isn't just about learning. It's about unlearning, letting go of old roles, old beliefs, old coping mechanisms, old success strategies, old identities, even if they once worked, even if they once saved you, especially if they once saved you. You're not just repeating habits, you're repeating a persona. We don't just form routines, we form characters. The fixer, the funny one, the high achiever, the strong one, the quiet one, the helper, the chill one, the responsible one. And before long, that role becomes a rule. You live by it, build your decisions around it, filter your options through it, and slowly, without realizing it, you stop choosing freely. When your strength becomes your ceiling. What made you strong back then could be what's holding you back right now. Maybe your independence is now isolation. Your perfectionism is now paralysis. Your helpfulness is now self-abandonment. Your hustle is now avoidance. Your control is now fear. These patterns aren't flaws, they were tools. But what helped you survive won't always help you expand. Signs. You need to unlearn. You've outgrown your goals, but still chase them. You feel disconnected from your own achievements. You keep doing what you're good at, but it doesn't excite you. You know what needs to change, but can't seem to act on it. You're more loyal to who you were than who you're becoming. If any of that hits, you're not broken. You're just ready for a new operating system. The courage to disassemble. Unlearning is scary. Why? Because it feels like death, not of your body, but of your identity. But what if that's not a death, but a rebirth? Like a snake shedding its skin, like a tree dropping old leaves, like a phone dumping outdated software to run faster. You're not falling apart. You're freeing up space. The process of unlearning, pause and inventory. What beliefs, habits, or roles are running automatically? Question everything. Who taught me this? Is it still true for me? Release gently. No judgment, just acknowledgement. Thank you for protecting me. I don't need you now. Test new ways of being, even if they feel awkward, especially if they feel awkward. Redefine success on your own terms, not from childhood, not from culture, not from fear. Final thought. You don't need to become someone else. You need to come back to yourself. The truth is, you were never supposed to stay one version of you. You're allowed to evolve, to contradict your past, to change your mind, to rewrite your rules. The ceiling you're hitting isn't external. It's the habit of being who you've always been. And when you unlearn that, you don't just grow, you break free. Here's the secret no one tells you about leveling up. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the capacity of your nervous system. You can read every mindset book, repeat every affirmation, visualize the life you want. But if your body feels unsafe at that next level, you will sabotage, delay, or freeze. Every time. It's not a mindset problem. It's a capacity problem. Ever felt this? You start something exciting, then ghost it. You land the opportunity and suddenly feel paralyzed. You speak up and instantly want to disappear. You get attention and feel overwhelmed instead of celebrated. That's not laziness. That's not fear of failure. That's your nervous system saying, too much, too fast equals threat. Your body isn't built for success. It's built for survival. And anything new, even good, can feel unsafe if it's unfamiliar. Your nervous system has a set point. Think of it like a thermostat. It's calibrated to your past, what you grew up with, what you were rewarded for, what you were punished for, what normal felt like in your body. So when you experience more love, money, freedom, attention, power, rest, your system spikes. You say, why can't I just enjoy this? But your body says, this isn't normal, shut it down. So you self-sabotage, not because you're broken, But because your system is protecting what's familiar, not what's ideal. Upper limiting is a nervous system response. Gay Hendricks calls it the upper limit problem, that invisible wall you hit when life gets too good. You pick a fight after a big win. You get sick right before the launch. You procrastinate the thing that matters most. You undercharge even after getting great results. These aren't random, they're nervous system reactions. Your body is saying, let's return to the temperature we're used to. You have to stretch, not snap. Here's the key. You can't just push harder. You have to expand capacity. Pushing triggers, panic. Stretching builds tolerance. This is nervous system work, and it starts with regulating breath, creating micro-stretch experiences, doing the scary thing in small doses, practicing safety after success, celebration, rest, presence, repairing rupture, noticing, soothing, re-engaging. You don't need to be fearless. You need to build a wider window of what feels safe. You can't outperform your safety. Settings: if love feels unsafe, you'll push it away. If wealth feels unsafe, you'll spend it fast. If visibility feels unsafe, you'll hide your gifts. If rest feels unsafe, you'll hustle yourself sick. Until you feel safe having more, you'll subconsciously choose less. And no mindset hack can override a body in defense mode. Final thought: regulate before you rise. You're not weak, you're not inconsistent, you're not stuck. You're just hitting your current capacity. But here's the good news. Capacity can be stretched. Nervous systems can be retrained. Safety can be redefined. So don't just dream bigger, regulate bigger. Because when your body says, I can handle this, your entire life expands to match. Here's the hard truth. Most people aren't living lives they hate. They're living lives they never consciously chose. Not horrible, just default. Chose the job because it was secure. Stayed in the relationship because it was comfortable. Lived in the city because that's where I ended up. Said yes because that's what people do. And then one day they look up and ask, whose life is this? And how did I get here? You're allowed to design your life. Think about it. If someone gave you a blank canvas and said, paint anything, you'd hesitate, plan, experiment. But life? We're handed a template, told, just fill this in. Go to school, pick a career. Find someone, buy things, retire, no questions, no edits, no blueprint that actually reflects you. But guess what? You can opt out. You can redesign. You can start painting your own canvas at any point. Design means asking different questions. Most people ask, what's realistic? What do people my age do? What makes sense on paper? What will they think? Designers ask, what energizes me? What makes me feel alive? What problem am I uniquely built to solve? What would I do if I trusted myself completely? One path keeps you safe. The other makes you sovereign. You're not lazy, you're underfed. If you're constantly exhausted, procrastinating, zoning out, it might not be discipline you lack. It might be nourishment, a job that drains you, a schedule that depletes you, a routine that numbs you, a relationship that silences you. Designing your life means asking, what in my life actually feeds me back? What gives energy instead of taking it? What returns more than it takes? Designing isn't about hustle, it's about alignment. Audit your ecosystem. Ask yourself, work, does it challenge and fulfill me, or just occupy me? People, do they reflect my future or reinforce my past? Environment, does it energize me or choke my clarity? Routines, are they designed for my current self or an old version of me? If something's out of sync, redesign it. Even in micro ways, change the room you work in. Shift your sleep rhythms. Reorder your priorities. Swap one draining interaction for one inspiring one. Tiny design tweaks equals massive identity shifts. Don't just chase more. Craft. Better designing doesn't mean doing more. It means choosing better. Better questions, better boundaries, better inputs. It's the opposite of autopilot. You don't have to burn it all down. You just have to start asking, if I were designing my life from scratch, what would I keep, change, or delete? That question alone can shift everything. Final thought. The designed life feels like coming home. When life fits you, not your parents, not your culture, not your resume, something clicks. Your nervous system relaxes, your days feel lighter, your energy returns, your vision sharpens, because you're no longer managing a life you inherited. You're living one you've intentionally built, and that life feeds you, fuels you, frees you. Let's not sugarcoat it. You are running out of time, not in a panic kind of way, but in a truth kind of way. You've got roughly 30,000 days on this planet. That's it. If you're 30, you've used up 11,000 already. If you're 40, that's 14,600. Gone. And yet, we walk around like we've got infinity in the bank. I'll start when I have more time. I'll leave when I feel ready. I'll say it someday. I'll do it eventually. But someday is a seductive lie. It feels safe, but it's a thief. The real regret isn't what you did. It's what you didn't do. The words you didn't say. The trips you didn't take. The risks you didn't leap into. The love you didn't open to. The creativity you didn't share. The dreams you kept in draft mode. Ask anyone near the end of their life, and they'll tell you. It wasn't the failures that haunted them. It was the fences they never climbed over. You think you have time? You don't. You think, I'll have more energy later. I'll be less afraid later. I'll be more ready later. But here's what actually happens. You get used to the numbness. You build routines around your fear. You confuse busy with fulfilled. You master the art of distraction. You start calling it just life. But inside, you feel the quiet ache of unlived potential. And that ache, that's your soul knocking. Stop saving the good stuff. You know what most people save? Their nice clothes for special occasions, their best ideas for when they're ready, their real feelings for when the time is right, their dreams for after things calm down. But life isn't a dress rehearsal. You don't get a second act to go back and wear the damn outfit, say the damn truth, launch the damn idea. Stop saving, start spending. Spend your joy, spend your energy, spend your time like it actually matters, because it does. The real flex, living with nothing held back. Not wealth, not titles, not followers, not approval. The real flex is being deeply present. Saying the thing even when your voice shakes, letting people see the real you. Choosing aliveness over perfection. Walking away from should and into self. It's not about being fearless. It's about choosing anyway, even while shaking, even while uncertain, even while unfinished. Your legacy isn't someday. It's every day. Every text you send, every story you share, every risk you take, every time you show up instead of shrink. That's your legacy in motion. You don't leave a mark by waiting. You leave a mark by living, fully, messily, honestly. Now, final thought. There is no later, there's now. And then there's too late. This entire series, The Invisible Ceiling, wasn't about success. It was about liberation, from old narratives, from quiet fears, from default lives. And now you're at the edge. There is no next part, no bonus chapter. There's only this. Pick one truth that hit you and live like it matters. Today.